Unit 1, Systems of Equations. By the end of this video, you will know how to solve systems with a line and quadratic, systems with two quadratics, systems with three variables, systems of inequalities, and 3 different methods to solve linear equations.
Systems with a line and quadratics. Sometimes you may be given a graph that looks like this. In this case, you'll be asked how to do two things: find the distance between the two intersections and solve the system, or finding the points of the intersection. Let's start with solving the system. To solve, take the equation of the quadratic and the equation of the linear and set them equal to each other and then to 0 to solve for the x's. Then plug both of the x values into one of the equations to find the y values. Let's do an example. Say the equations of a linear and quadratic graph are x minus 3 and x squared plus 3x minus 6. At what 2 points do they intercept? So first you need to set them equal to each other, then solve to get the equations equal to 0. Then you solve for x by factoring. Then you plug x back in, and don't forget to plug in both x values to get both points. Therefore, the intersections are located at 1 and -2 and -3, -6. Now let's talk about finding the distance between 2 points. To do this, we need to plug the points of the two intersections into the distance formula. The distance formula is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, all square rooted. So let's use the points we used in the last example. The points were 1, -2, and -3, -6. Now let's find the distance between the 2 points step by step. Plug in the 2 points using the distance formula and continue to simplify until you get one answer. Therefore, the distance between the 2 points is square root of 32.
So solving systems with two quadratics. So an example is y equals 3x squared plus 4x minus 8 and y equals -x squared. So for this, you substitute -x squared in for y of the other equation. So it should be -x squared equals 3x squared plus 4x minus 8. And then you add x squared to the other side. And then you get 4x squared plus 4x minus 8. But that is divisible by 4, so you can divide everything by 4, and you should get x squared plus x minus 2, which is factorable. So your 2, you would factor x plus 2 and x minus 1. And then your two zeros would be located at x equals -2 and x equals 1. And then to find the y values of both x's, you would substitute them in for y equals -x squared. So then you do -1 squared, and you would get -1, and then you would do -2 squared, and you would get -4. And then your 2 points would be 1, -1, and -2, -4. And that is your answer, and then you could graph it right here.
Systems with 3 variables. Suppose you get a problem like this. 5x plus 4y minus 2 is equal to 0. 10y minus 3z is equal to 11. Z is equal to 3. The best way to solve a system like this is step by step. Step 1 is to name your equations. So you'd name them 1, 2, and 3. Step 2 is to add or subtract 2 of the equations together so that one of the variables is erased. Name the resulting equation 4. Do the same thing with another 2 equations, eliminating the same variable. You might have to multiply one of the equations by a number in order to properly eliminate the variable. Name this resulting equation 5. Take equation number 5 and solve for the variable. You now have one of your answers, which is y is equal to 2. Take your newly discovered variable and plug it into the equation number 4. Solve for the variable. You now have 2 of the 3 answers. X is equal to -1. Plug your 2 variables into one of your original 3 equations in order to solve for the final variable, and you're done. So the final answers are x is equal to -1, y is equal to 2, and z is equal to 3. Alright, so now let's do an example. Do this problem. The answer is x is equal to -2, y is equal to 3, and z is equal to 1. If you didn't get it right, look at this step by step of the problem to see where you made a mistake. Solving systems of inequalities. Suppose you're presented with these two problems. 2x minus 3y is less than or equal to 12, and x plus 5y is less than or equal to 20. When told to solve an inequality system, what you must do first is solve both equations for y to make sure if you divide by a negative number, you flip the inequality sign. Then you will graph and shade the equation. Let's do an example. So first, you would solve both equations for y. Now graph the equations. Remember that in your equations, A is the slope and B is the y-intercept. Finally, to shade. Look at the inequality sign, and if y is less than, shade behind the line, and if y is greater than, shade in front. The area where your shading overlaps is where your solution is. So here.
Okay, so this is 3 different methods to solve systems of linear equations. One method we are going to look at right now is using a graph. So the example problem is x plus y equals 1, and x plus 3y equals 9. So you would then isolate y on one side, so you would get for both the problems. So you would get y equals 1 minus x, and y equals 9 minus x divided by 3. You do this so you can graph it on the calculator and put 1 minus x in y1 and 9 minus x divided by 3 in y2. And so when you put that on your calculator, you'd hit graph, second trace 5, enter, 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 and you should get a point as your answer. And it should be -3, 4. And that is how you do it. And then this is the graph. And this, you found the zeros, and then you graph the point -3, 4. Another method you can use is using elimination. So, for example, we have 3x plus y equals 13 and x plus 6y equals -7. Well, for elimination, you want to have the x's cancel out. So you multiply it by -3 and then on everything by -3 on this equation, and you would get the x's would cancel out, and then you'd add them, and it would get -17y equals 34, and you'd get y to equal -2. Then you would plug in -2 for y in 3x plus y equals 13 equation, and you would get x equals 5, so your answer would be 5, -2. Using substitution. So this is example 3, which is x plus 2y equals 8 and x minus 2y equals 4. So for this, you would want to isolate the x on the side and substitute for x minus 2y equals 4. And then, so you'd plug in 8 minus 2y for x on this equation, and then do minus 2y equals 4. So if you add those together, you get -4y. So 8 minus -4y equals 4. Then you subtract 8 on both sides. Then you get -4y equals -4, and you get y to equal 1. Then you would plug in 1 for y in the x plus 2y equals 8 equation, and you would get 6. And so your answer would be 6, 1.
From watching this video, you have now learned the systems with a line and quadratics, systems with 2 quadratics, systems with 3 variables, systems of inequalities, and ways to solve systems of linear equations.